Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing good. In this video, I want to talk about the new things that are in the 7.50 patch. Basically, everything related to Primal Shards, Mythic champions, and all that. I didn't want to make any kind of video reacting to any of this new stuff until we got a little bit more information. And I feel like today we got enough information that I wanted to make a video and give my honest opinion about everything. And since I'm free to play, maybe I can give a different perspective than what other people are chiming in with. So let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so basically we're gonna have a bit of a discussion on everything that's happening in game. There's definitely a lot and it can be overwhelming. So let's talk about Primal Shards. So basically we got Primal Shards, these new fancy red shards that are in the game right now. They give you, they have their own separate odds of champions. There's a new tier of legendary called Mythical champions, and it's one level higher than legendary champion. You can only get Mythical from Primal Shards. Here are the rates. Yes, they look ridiculously hard to get, but you can get the 1% legendary pool in them as well, so there is an extra incentive. It's like 1.5% basically. It's going to be better odds than just regular ancient or void shards, but you're still not going to feel very good getting 82.5% rare champions. Currently there's no mythic rare, mythic epic, mythic legendary. So mythical is basically just a separate tier of champion above legendary. Currently there's only 5 mythical champions, so there's actually not a big pool of them right now. So that's going to be kind of like a separate thing onto itself. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. Plarium hasn't released any void mythical champions yet. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but I think that's going to be a thing because right now they have affinities. All the mythical champions have affinities, so eventually you'll see some void mythical champions, and I highly doubt that Plarium would put void mythicals in the same category as mythical, but you never know. A bit of speculation on my part, but I would say it's pretty good. I would bet that they would probably make a separate shard for void mythical champions. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they make an equivalent to like a sacred primal, so a one tier of shard higher than the regular primal shard. So in the future we could potentially have like three primal shards in total, one for regular mythical champions, one for void mythical champions, and then one for like a big boosted odds for mythical champions. We don't know, but just speculation on my part. So that's the mythical gist. There's only 5 champions so far, and how do we get these little mythical bits, right? So right now you can buy them in the shop. They're approximately $10 a piece, $10 US, which is pretty ridiculous. And I say this like thinking like a spender. If I was a spender, I'd say like, oh, $10, that's pretty ridiculous, because the odds of getting a mythical is 0.5%, and that's basically the same as paying an ancient shard trying to get lucky and get a legendary. Same odds. Yes, you get an extra 1% chance to get a legendary as well, but honestly, for basically 10 times the price, a regular ancient shard costs roughly $1. If you're paying $10 for a primal shard, it's 10 times the price, and it's definitely not 10 times as valuable as the ancient shard. With that being said, this shop is totally expensive, so let's look for some deals, shall we? So currently you can get, they are giving away 2 primal shards, so you guys can definitely get some of the freebies right now. I believe it expires in 2 days, so definitely hop on whatever accounts you got and then scoop these up. Let's check out the deals we got going on here. So here it is. Here's the deal. You get 3 primal shards for 35 bucks Canadian. That's about $30 US. That's about $10. So there's basically like kind of no deal. I think I've seen some offers for 3 for 25 US, which is about $8 for each. I mean, we're talking about 8 times the price of a regular blue ancient shard. It's just way too much. And you know, the chances of people getting anything from these are insanely low. And here is the extra kicker. Plarium is only giving you a mercy system of 1% after 200 shards that you don't get a mythical champion. So that means you're guaranteed to get a mythical champion on your 300th shard. In comparison, for ancient and voids, you're guaranteed to get a legendary from an ancient or void if you have missed 220 shards. Most people never go to 220. Recently, in a recent video, I went to 210, but I've never went to 220 myself. I've never seen anybody go that high, but that's going to be your absolute maximum, 220. For Primal Shards, that's 300, and we're talking $8 to $10 each. So we're talking $2,400 to $3,000 US for your one mythical champion. That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee. You know, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, right? And you know, especially for one champion, yeah, it's a lot of money. So anyways, that's where you're gonna get them. You get them from the shop. I don't think a lot of people will be buying these right now. So you'll be getting these from the shop. You also need books. So each book costs $25 US, similar to legendary tomes. Each mythical champion does not take necessarily more books than regular legendary champions, even though they have 2 forms. So you don't have to worry about that, but it is a separate resource that we don't know where we're going to get these from, because the legendary book we can get from events and clan boss and stuff like that, so we can stack them up. But currently mythical tomes, we don't know where we get them from. So, you know, Plarium has yet to release that information. It's likely that it might come from the new clan boss. We're suspecting that it might come from this, the Great Void. And we also are expecting that we might get some mythical shards from this, which makes sense considering that the demon boss gives us the regular shards. This boss would give us the primal shards. Alright, so you guys can buy the primal shards, or you guys can build up the pieces of the quartz. So here, if you collect 100 quartz, you can make 1 primal shard. Where do we get the quartz from? We get them from Hydra, specifically Hydra Clan Clash. So you can only get the here it is. So you get from the maximum chest in the first place, you can get a maximum of 3/4 of 1 shard per week. That is absolutely insane. Like, the amount of value, like if the odds for pulling the mythic was much higher, like 10 times higher, I could see like, okay, limiting the amount of shards you get per month makes sense. But at this rate, you're not even going to get 1 shard per week so far. Of course, Plarium is going to add this to other areas of the game, so we'll probably be getting more of these in other areas. It could replace tournament event rewards, which are really bad, especially for free-to-play players. I'll tell you guys right now that it's going to be really bad. The dilution in resources, especially for free-to-play, when you lose gems and energy and stuff, it's yeah, it's really bad. So yeah, this is just going to make it a little bit harder for free-to-plays, especially if they rely heavily on, like, you know, extra rewards from tournaments and events. But yeah, and building up one of these, collecting 100 quartz to make 1 shard, and then pulling a rare, it's just brutal. So it doesn't make any sense to me. This should have been like maybe like 10 times as many shards or quartz that they can provide per week. So if they give us between 3 to 7 shards per week for the #1 top chest and winning the clash per week, you know, that might be a bit better, because that puts you around 25-30 primal shards per month, which is roughly void shard acquisition rates. So, but anyways, Plarium just released this primal shard feature, so likely they will add it in various areas, like, you know, the Great Void, because when for example, when blessings first came out, these pieces were extremely rare. Now we're seeing them more often in various events and ways to get them. So yeah, you know, Plarium's just gonna adjust as we go. Day 1 is gonna be always the worst, so Plarium is definitely setting the bar for everybody. They're setting the price expectations. So right now we're expecting it to be $8 to $10 each, $8 to $10 each on this pack here. You know, they're setting the price expectations for everyone, right? So now we're all accustomed to seeing it at $8 to $10. So when they drop a pack for $5 to $6, we'll be like, wow, it's such a great deal. In essence, it's not really a good deal at all still, but it's still a great deal relative to what it started at. And that's just, you know, good business on their end. Of course, you don't start this shard at $3 and then work up. You never do that. So of course they're going to start on day one at the maximum to set the price limit for everybody. If you're patient, you're definitely going to get some better prices. Obviously, you're going to skip out on these stupid packs, especially in the beginning. And they're just capitalizing on like player FOMO and of course hype, right? These champions are incredibly like beautiful to look at. Like the animation department nails these champions super hard. Like look at this guy. Look at this. Like, yeah, you're paying for this. Like, right? Like these champions look insane. Plus they have transformation as well. It just looks awesome. So there's serious hype and people will definitely be spending money to try to get these. But how valuable are these champions? And is it even worth it? In my opinion, these champions are not worth it. Their total stats is not that much higher, if at all, than existing champions. Yes, you get more stats probably in total per champion. So like for example, like this champion has 20,000 HP. You get a good amount of attack plus defense and good speed. So in general, you're probably getting like 2 to 3 to 4% increase in most stat areas, but it's not like game breaking. So if you transform him back to his other form, his stats change, of course. 1663 attack is good. It's definitely on the higher end of attack, but it's not going to be, it's not like higher than current champions currently. But of course, if you pair like his attack level with a good amount of defense and a really good amount of speed, you know, he has a overall higher stat than a normal champion, but it's not game breaking. It's not game breaking. So are they worth it from stats? Not really, no. Are they worth it from overall abilities? You know, the metamorph ability, it can't be cooldown, so it's kind of nice to have kind of like a failsafe. But some of these champions have really clunky mechanics going on with their metamorph. So that's one issue. The other issue is when you transform from one form that doesn't make sense. No, sorry, if you transform from one form to the other and it doesn't make sense from a gearing level perspective. So for example, if a champion requires, so for example right here, he turns into a support champion, but his base form is a full-on nuker. His base form is a nuking champion. So you're gonna gear him up in like Savage and all that stuff, but when he transforms into his support role, he's geared in Savage nuker gear. So what is he going to do as a support? Can you imagine gearing your Duchess with Savage gear? Like it just, is she going to excel as a support? She won't. So it doesn't make a lot of sense so far with the existing champions being released. Some of the champions are better than others at using the same gear set, but there are some that are totally not useful at all. So for example, the Sacred Order Mythical is going from attack to a support. This one actually does it a little bit better. Mezomel, she goes from an attack base attacker into another attack base attacker. So in this case, she can use the same gear set and be totally viable. So maybe in the future they'll address this in some way, I don't know, but currently it's definitely very clunky for some of the champions. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if certain champions require accuracy on one kit and then they don't on the other kit. That's just more stats you have to build in. So yeah, and personally I think Mezomel has a very like coherent kit. Personally, she has a role, and she has pretty good abilities to achieve that role. Good attack as well. Like yeah, I think she might be one of the better ones for sure. But anyways, that's kind of like my thoughts on like the Mythic champion in general. It's definitely just hyped up right now. So personally, as a free to play, it obviously you cannot control the outcome of when you get these champions, because you're not going to be buying shards. The acquisition of these Primal Shards are incredibly difficult to get. But I wouldn't sweat it too much because their power level is just not that insane. So they're not going to change your teams. Like they might, depending on your roster and how deep you are into the game. But they're good champions, but they're not going to be like insanely game breaking. You still might prefer certain champions over them, like existing champions. For example, like Marichka Taras. These guys are actually still insanely powerful relative to them. You might want a Duchess instead, just because she's just really good. You might want a Kaimar instead. For example, like there's a lot of champions that you probably want instead of these mythical champions, especially with the difficulty of their acquisition, as well as how do you acquire the books to book them out. So right now it's it's kind of just hype noise to me. I think the real champions will come later. The real primal mythical champions, the real void legendaries will come later. I wouldn't fall too badly into these 5 released champions to get to basically like fall over head over heels for. I'd wait it out. People that are patient will be rewarded for sure. None of these will be arena meta champions most likely. Of course, I don't have playtesting capabilities on my account, but from what I've seen from other playtesters, they don't seem like meta defining champions that's going to change like any serious arena players roster. I could be wrong, of course, but they don't seem like it to me currently. But since they have 2 combinations of abilities, you might see some cool stuff. But then I don't know how these champions function on auto, if people like to play auto, so mostly they're probably going to be like live arena champions maybe. But that's kind of like where my stance are on these mythical champions. In the future, I definitely could see like void primal shard, as well as a sacred primal shard equivalent. So we could be seeing like 20% chance or 10% chance at mythical, with like 10% chance at legendary, and then 80% chance at epic, or something along those lines for a juiced up primal shard. I could see that. Another interesting tidbit is that the champ chase just dropped today, and it did include the value for the mythical champion pulls, and that is 1,000 points. So the point value from pulling a mythical is only twice as much as the legendary. Given that the rate of them is the same, is basically twice as hard to get from a primal shard, that kind of makes sense. We don't know what the primal shard is worth in terms of a summon rush. So if you guys will recall, an ancient shard is worth 20 points, a void shard is 120 points, and a sacred shard is worth 500 points in the summon rush. If I were to guess, I would put the primal shard, maybe personally I would put it at 250. That's me. Plarium would probably put it at 150. Slightly higher than the existing void shard, which again doesn't make sense considering that the primal shard is so much more expensive than even a void shard. It's probably 3 times as expensive as a void shard. So yeah, that's my thought on it. And if you guys are free to play, I would 100% save these for at least a champ chase or a summon rush, because pulling them for no reason just to get like a rare, it doesn't make any sense. So try to get some value from them, especially like I said, from free to play. And yeah, basically like I would not give them too much thought. Like they're cool to see, they're going to be cool to see in the game, they're going to be cool to see, cool to use if you actually got one, but yeah, I wouldn't sweat it too much. I'm not going to quit the game over it. There's a lot of people going doom and gloom about this and how like, oh, the gap's going to get bigger and all that stuff. Like, let's be real here. This only really affects maybe like 100 people in the whole game, because if you see some Joe Blow with a mythic champion, they're not going to just instantly win whatever arena fight they are in versus you if you have a respectable, capable roster yourself. And in the top 100 of PvP, maybe those 100 people will be able to do some crazy things with their mythical champions against each other, but they're already competing against each other anyways. So it honestly has no effect on basically anyone in this game. Of course, like there's going to be like trickle down effects, like taking away extra rewards from events and all that stuff. And of course, we don't know if there's any future content that will require some of these better champions or more skill kits to deal with. So I just want to jump back and revisit some of the mythical champions and the issues that I feel are on them. So like I said, I was mentioning there's going to be one gear set for both forms, which is very problematic if you have two forms that don't make sense together. So you have the gear optimally for one, whereas the other one will not be optimally built. For example, if you have like a Trunda nuker plus a Duchess support form, what can you do? You can't build, you're not going to build a Savage Duchess. You're not going to build a support Trunda, for example. Just an example. There might be like future mythicals that are better suited, and not all mythicals suffer from this as badly as some, but is gear optimization issues with two different forms. There's also going to be mastery issues. So how do you set the masteries on two champions with one set of masteries? Doesn't make sense, right? So I see some issues with this. Maybe Plarium addresses it somehow, but so to me, this metamorph it feels like a soft counter to maybe getting locked out, and it does offer some flexibility. But what I will say is that these Primal Shards and Mythic champions do address several issues that Plarium probably has or is noticing right now. So the champion pool right now is actually quite massive. It's like 700 champions or something like that. And we're starting to see the strain on the whole like shard 10x system with legendaries. There's just too many legendaries in the game. It's too hard to acquire them. But the thing is, for Plarium, they have to add legendaries or champions in the game for people to feel interested and buy shards and all that stuff. So how do they avoid bloating this pool further? They make a new tier of champion, which is perfect solution for them. It increases the power, increases the willingness for people to buy shards without bloating the existing pool already. So it actually tackles several problems for them in one shot, which is pretty smart on their end. I would have never thought that they would add another tier because that's such a big change, but yeah, this definitely addresses several issues for them. It also handles a certain like design. It also gives like design flexibility, so it gives them a lot of creative agency on what they want to do on some champions, which is really cool too, especially from a player standpoint to see. And yeah, like adding a new tier of power obviously increases the chase for everyone. This is going to prolong the runway for the game. Basically, like, you're not going to expect this game to go, close the doors next year, especially adding, a new tier of legendary, a new tier of champion, and so forth. The other thing that this actually does is that it actually, it's technically new content without adding new content. So if you add new champions in the game, you definitely mix up some of your content in the game. So for example, like, Plarium has been definitely dropping a lot of content recently, and I don't see them adding as much content as quickly in the future because they don't really need to. New champions is basically like new content for them. So they'll flesh out this new clan boss, which gives us a new level of difficulty to use some of these cool champions. They'll add up, they'll add some new dungeon levels to some of these dungeons already. So we're gonna probably see, hard 25 at one point. And Doom Tower's never gonna get touched, they said. Faction Wars probably never gonna get touched. We were hoping that we would get, there was a cool idea in content creator chat where someone said that they should add a mythical champion beyond Lydia and like extend Faction Wars, because Faction Wars is always kind of fun, kind of like a puzzle, right? But yeah, so adding new champions kind of just shrinks the need for them to keep adding new content to keep us kind of engaged. So now they kind of have like all their content laid out. They're just gonna add, like, increase the difficulty slightly, and then that's gonna be it. Like I you know, I don't see them dropping big content in the future. They're gonna have like Hydra, but Hydra's just gonna be Ultra Nightmare, and then that's probably gonna be it. Hydra Clash is kind of like whatever. Are we gonna lose this one too? We lost the last one. That was pretty bad. We don't have Cadaver teams. That's another thing too. These stupid Cadaver teams. But yeah. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling on a little bit, but I just wanted to give you guys my honest review on everything. Like I've definitely like been keeping up to date with everything, kind of absorbing all the content I can and seeing, you know, how I feel about everything. I didn't want to make a quick reaction video and then kind of regret what I said. So in this video, like I feel like I kind of handled it all. Like I don't feel like champions are insanely game breaking. I'm not going to go out of my way to pick them up. Of course, for kind of content, it's kind of nice to pick up Primal Shards and try to pull them for future content. But honestly, like the rates for them are just atrocious. The Mercy is impossible. The acquisition for them is extremely difficult. Obviously Plarium will adjust these rates, right? As the time goes on, and Plarium will adjust these rates. We saw this with blessings and, you know, the essence acquisition and the soul stones and all that stuff. And those are extremely expensive when they first came out and extremely hard to get too. So I can see the same thing happening here with the Primal Shards as well as the Quartz. And they will never start on their best foot when these come out. They'll always, you know, start bringing the price down as time goes on. They'll start adding more and more of these. Start pushing people's progression. They definitely try to milk people in the first couple, like I said, a couple weeks, just to capitalize on hype and FOMO and stuff like that. But I think, you know, for everybody, just kind of stay strong, hold on to your shards if you can, you know, save them for a summon rush or something, get some extra points. We have a couple freebies. Like I've already seen people get lucky and pull like pull some of the mythicals, but what are you gonna do? You got no books for them, and you know you got no books for them unless you're gonna spend some money. So it is what it is. It's gonna be a long grind. I'm not gonna worry about mythical champions until I get enough books to deal with them anyways. But yeah, anyways, it's exciting stuff. Hopefully you guys got lucky on your pulls, I guess, but it's probably very unlikely that you guys got lucky. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about what I think. And yeah, best of luck on your pulls this weekend. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys soon.